Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I have a book haul for you. It's been a couple of months since I've done a book haul, and I have accumulated a couple, and I want to share them with you, so let's just dive right in. So the first book that I've picked up recently is actually one I've already read. I read it back in June, but I absolutely loved it and decided I had to have the book on my shelves because I definitely want to reread it and eventually have my children read it when they are old enough. And that book is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This is a memoir by George M. Johnson chronicling his life growing up Black and queer. And it was fantastic. I loved it. And I had to have it on my shelves. Because A, it's a wonderful, wonderful book. But B, look at this cover. It's just so gorgeous. It's like my favorite, one of my favorite covers of the year. So yes, so glad that I now have this on my shelves. The next one that I have is actually a book that was passed on to me by my mother-in-law. She read it and thought that I would enjoy it too. And it was one of those books that the libraries, like her local library, did a group read of. And so that's how she read it and decided to pass it on to me. But it is called What the Eyes Don't See: A Story of Crisis, Resistance, and Hope in an American City by Mona Hanna-Attisha. And this is a nonfiction book written by this doctor who was one of many people to uncover, discover, reveal, whatever you want to call it, the Flint water crisis in Flint, Michigan. So I'm really interested to read this because I would just love to get more of her kind of firsthand account about, you know, the work that she's done and what her and other people have done to uncover this debacle, this horrible thing that has happened to this whole community in Flint. And yeah, if you haven't heard about the Flint water crisis, I would suggest Googling it. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. So yeah, I am glad that she passed this on to me, and I will hopefully be reading it soon. Next up is a book that I picked up because of Ashley over at Bookish Realm. I heard her talk about this book and I decided I want to read it. And it is called American Street by Ibi Zoboi. And it's about a young girl and her mother who are from Haiti, and they are moving to the United States, and her mother gets caught up in US immigration and is detained. So the young girl, her name is Fabiola, she goes on to the United States by herself and is staying with family in Detroit. And it's about her adjusting from her life in Haiti to now this very different sort of life that she's living in Detroit, and sort of the culture shock and whatnot of it all, and just having to navigate this whole new world. And this appealed to me because of the kind of local roots it has. I'm not from Detroit, but Detroit is probably the most like local of locals that I will get for a book setting, because I live in Metro Detroit. I live in a suburb of Detroit. So that definitely piqued my interest, and the story just sounds interesting, so I went ahead and picked it up. The next one I have is one that I feel like I'm one of the last people to read, but I want to read it because I want to read it. That book is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And I read her second book, Little Fires Everywhere. I really enjoyed it. It was a good piece of fiction. And this one I've heard is also very good. It is about a Chinese American family that live in Ohio, and they are basically grieving over the loss of their daughter. And it's just a kind of a family drama about that, about family secrets and the ways in which people within families interact together. And yeah, I've heard it's just a great book. And like I said, I really enjoyed Little Fires Everywhere, so I want to go ahead and check this one out. Okay, so I have 3 more books to talk about, all of which I picked up in the bargain bin at my grocery store. I'm telling you, my grocery store has really had good choices in the bargain bin the last month or two. It's been awesome. So yeah, I picked all these up from the bargain bin at the grocery store. The first one is My Absolute Darling by Gabrielle Talent. And this is one that is about a teenage girl that lives in Northern California. And she lives with her father, and he is very unstable. He is abusive in a number of ways. And they live sort of this somewhat sheltered life because he is a kind of a what do you call him? Like a doomsday prepper. He's always planning for the end of days, and kind of wants to live off the grid and all of that stuff, and kind of waiting for the world to end. And so he is doing that and prepping her to do that, but they have a very a very sort of twisted relationship. But she does, however, go to school, and one day she meets a boy and they become friends, and it kind of, this new friendship sort of makes her want to escape this life that she's been living. And yeah, so I've heard it's a very heavy book. It's dark, has dark topics, but I've heard it also has some really beautiful nature writing. So I wanted to check it out. The next book that I grabbed out of the bargain bin is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. And I know right now everybody's talking about her new book, The Vanishing Half. And I do want to read that one, but I kind of want to read this one first because this was her debut. And I've heard that it's a really, really good book, especially considering it's a debut novel. And it's about a teenage girl. It seems like a lot of my books are about teenage girls. I don't know, maybe I was like subconsciously in one of those moods. I don't know. But anyway, it deals with a teenage girl who is grieving the loss of her mother. She starts to date the pastor's son, and they have sort of a secret romance, and then they don't come out and say it in the blurb, but you gather from the blurb that she gets pregnant. And so it's kind of scandalous. There's some sort of cover-up sort of thing kind of happening. And I think it goes through the aftermath, the effects of this relationship, because they're like in high school, and it goes into their adulthood, and how this event, this relationship, this event, the subsequent pregnancy, I'm assuming it's a pregnancy, kind of how that affects their lives going forward. And so yeah, I've heard that this is great, has great writing in it, and that it's a good story. And I've been honestly eyeing it for a while, but it's one of those books that I kept seeing everywhere and would pick it up and read the blurb and then put it back, and so when I saw it in the bargain bin, I was like, okay, it's time. It's a sign that I need to pick this up and read it. And then the last book that I got out of the bargain bin is a thriller that I had to pick it up because the premise to me it sounds really interesting. The book is called The Chain by Adrienne McKinty. And it's about this woman who one day I believe takes her daughter to school. Her daughter ends up getting kidnapped. And then she gets a phone call, and the caller tells her that if she wants to get her daughter back, she has to go kidnap another child. And the person calling her is also a mother whose son has been kidnapped. And it's kind of this chain reaction of people whose children have been abducted, and in order to get their kids back, they have to become criminals themselves and abduct a child. And so it's gonna deal with, questions of like your moral compass, like what would you do would you commit a crime like that to save your child, or put another person through what you're going through to save your child? How far would you go? Those kinds of questions. So this sounds like it would be like, I don't know, terrifying for one thing, being a parent. That just sounds awful to me, but it also sounds very interesting. So yeah, I decided, hey, I'm gonna check it out. Alright guys, so those are the books that I have acquired recently. Please let me know down below if you've read any of them and which ones you liked, or which ones you think I should prioritize and read right away. I would love to know. And yeah, let me know if you've gotten any good books lately, because I'd love to hear about that. Alright guys, I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.